Hello traders, and welcome to my video on the US WTI oil crash which we predicted last week. Now obviously we were in a long-term trend for this anyway. Now I'm just going to explain what even happened, how to look out for opportunities like these, and how we even predicted it. So let's just start off with getting a bit of history of what's happened with oil prices this year. So we entered 2020 with a WTI oil, which is US oil, West Texas oil, trading around 60, well at one point it was trading near $65 a barrel, but around $60 a barrel, we will say. And if you don't know already, the Russians and the Saudis engaged in a price war. Now obviously there's a lot of reasons they could have engaged in this price war, but we will leave them reasons out of it, but they were engaging in a price war. Now this obviously drove prices lower and lower and lower, below $30 a barrel. And obviously the US produce at a much higher cost than this, so it's detrimental to their oil refineries in terms of profit and stuff like that. But then I first predicted this on if we scroll up in my signals channel, you can see it was on the 20th, I think it was on the 24th I first predicted this. I posted a signal to all of my traders in my channel. Here we go, on the 24th of March. Short US oil, there's going to be a flash crash. And this was obviously because as the world's largest oil reserves are buying oil at the moment to max out their reserves, because obviously oil was so cheap. And the demand for oil, the global consumer demand, is only going to diminish. Now this is because we have COVID-19, we've just experienced a 20-year boom. So we can see on all of the manufacturing, the services, which predict global GDP growth across the world, all of the European, the US and the Chinese data points were coming out pretty poor, and we were expecting consumer demand to decrease. And obviously all of the world's oil reserves were being topped up because oil was so cheap, because of the Russians and the Saudis were engaging in a price war, as we have seen here. And this was making all of the world top up on their oil supply, so then in the future they could provide oil at a cheaper cost. Now, what is important to note here is when obviously, so the US oil trades in contracts, and it expires at the end of every single month. And when these contracts expire, the oil has to be delivered in a physical format. And imagine if all of the storages are full and oil's going cheaper, but there's nowhere to store the oil. So people obviously had to ditch the contract, and that is the main theory behind this trade and how we actually predicted it. And it was some crazy trade. Now, I even said that we can expect a flash crash in oil as long as COVID-19 outbreaks remains a main concern for investors, as countries are ordered to stay at home, as the demand for oil looks like it'll only worsen and possibly go to zero if the demand gets worse as the global economy comes to a standstill. So obviously there's no planes flying, people are travelling less, companies are using less oil, so the demand for oil was only being diminished and diminished and diminished. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But yet people were just topping up oil supplies and oil supplies, so there was becoming no room to store any more oil. So then, as what happened the other day, when oil prices came down, as we became towards the end of the month, when this contract expired, all of the oil would have to be, if people kept their contracts open, the oil would have to be transferred into a physical format. And if there's no storage, that can't happen because they've got nowhere to store the oil. And that explained why we saw over 100% decrease in the price of oil, and it even went into negative territory. There you go, negative 0.16 on this chart, but I did note on other charts it was on negative $2 a barrel. So this was obviously a huge concern, and some people made some crazy opportunities out of this. If you went on my Instagram profile, on one of my highlights, it's called the best trade ever, I think, or you can even say on my 3k to my 100k challenge, I boosted an account from 3k to 50k just on this opportunity. And I'm pretty sure this is there we go, flash crash played off. For those who held this trade, please send profit screenshots, as oil is now trading at $1 a barrel. And obviously it did even go lower than this, but we did take our profits at $1 a barrel. And we entered at $23.92 a barrel on the 24th of March. Obviously, this is one of the most fantastic trades I've ever done in my history. And that is why I am just creating a video on it, because I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And if you can look out for opportunities like these in the future, you can make a great deal of return on your investments. Now, I found all of the information for this just online. It was all publicly available. I was reading news reports and I noticed that on Reuters and stuff, they were saying that the world is topping up on all of the oil supplies. And then on my personal leading indicators, which predict GDP growth, I noticed that consumer demand was falling, and obviously a basic principle that lockdown, everyone was staying at home, planes weren't flying, the lack of demand for oil was just only going to weaker. So oil prices were up. There's no demand for it, so that was driving price lower anyway. And people were just storing more and more oil, and yet obviously there's a limit on storage, so they can only store so much. So people had to get out of all these contracts, and this explained the huge sell-off, as all the traders were just getting out all the contracts, and it even went into negative territory. So I hope that makes sense, traders. Don't forget, if you do want to get involved in opportunities like these, all you have to do is drop a message to my Instagram or my Telegram, and we can sort it out with a free trial or something like that. So yeah, have a great day and enjoy trading.